And cats are pretty. um, Thinking about it earlier, I was trying to place some sort of real-world back scenario with the superstition of a cat crossing the road being an auspicious omen, an inauspicious omen. And because I saw one come on kind of like around the bend up back there, and I thought, oh well, I just think I might, it's plausible, with super hearing comes, I guess, whimsical potential or something. Anyways, so the whole rendition of whatever sort of allocatable potential actualness of a, like, what do they call it? I guess it's called like reasoning or something. Some sort of like the actual for some sort of like what would it be called? Like an explanation, I guess, of a like mythology, an explanation of a mythology per se or something. Like in the sense that a person coming up the street in the sense that makes a cat, kind of like wonder, should I, just like should I like, go up the street a little bit? A fan of seeing black cats. And yeah, I think that the one that I saw earlier, I don't think either of them were like, neither of them were cats. But kittens, half cats. They were like, smaller, and also neither of them looked like this sort of like black that is, the superstitial black, like with this sort of like, shiny, like super dark jet black, gloss black cats crossing the road. Gloss black. Anyway, so now I'm back live recording. So for as I am of pretty much any animal crossing the road, because of the getting to see the animal and kind of like, am not so much a fan of the danger of an animal crossing the road. I am a fan of animal crossing signs by default. Just wanted to point that out. And my hypothesis, or if my crossing the road, substantiated by the reality that passer and may have. Anyways, so the scope that if the cat is hearing, I'm gonna like scurry off and go up perpendicular, or I'm gonna go like, some other way if I feel, since I'm feeling I'm needing to like, make myself safe because of the potential, oncoming like passing through her. He's gonna have like a definite like where he's gonna sounding like they're going to be like, going into a door nearby, like because they're like, nearing their house or something. Then the cat, like, maybe like, kind of like kind of daintily maybe, biting its sort of time, trying to check out like how far it's going to have to displace itself before it can go replace itself in its little cozy little spot that it had found. When the person eventually gets to briefly take a moment here and hypothesis for the theory crossing the road or a black cat in the road or whatever the superstition is. Disconnecting and discombobulating of the continuity of the conclusion and the confusion thereof and therein of the specific sort of detail or whatever. Which altogether is, counter-constructive to the purpose of, making a, attempt to write or indicate or whatever this onto video and such for entertainment purposes. If the stream keeps cutting in and out and then the halfway through the explanation it's not the explanation anymore, counter-constructive to the purpose of explaining it, which is got its own sort of group of reasonings. One, I like black cats. They're cool and pretty interesting and awesome. I see them often, and I sign of good luck and fair weather in passing. I saw a couple kittens tonight, little half like cat, half kitty kitten, sort of mid-sized cats that were not necessarily black but darkish colored. And while seeing one of them, I thought to myself, wonder if this cat is doing well. It's sort of like it's going about its way in a particular sort of way. As it came kind of up around the block corner, sort of an acute angle sort of corner, and then kind of was just moseying along, kind of not necessarily on a cat journey in which you then don't really necessarily see the cat because it's a few little lunges and leaps, and it's those things can go pretty wicked fast. But it was kind of in a more sort of pondering sort of sense or some sort of pace, so to say. So possibly there may be the reasoning that there may be the reason for the super meaning behind it, possibly along the lines of thus: a cat may be in a yard or something like that, sleeping or whatever, and it might hear somebody, and the cat is able to tell the difference. I'm presuming they're intelligent. The difference between a passer. So the cat hears a person and is not convinced that they're a through goer, so they're thinking, oh, well, I'm gonna get up out of my spot real quick and kind of bide my time and traipse down the block a little bit, maybe tippy toe down the block, and then wait until the person gets to wherever they're going. They're like the destination person, and then when they don't, and then when they get there, then I'll go back to my little spot that I was at or whatever. And so then, before the cat finds itself at the end of the block, and it's standing in the middle of the street or walking across the street, and at that point, seeing that cat would be kind of random. You could indicate, oh, I'm seeing a cat kind of crossing the street slowly, and it's not dashing away or something. It's kind of biding its time of some sort in some sort of way, and potentially see it just as a black cat in the road or something crossing the road. That black cat necessarily were to have thought that there was a through passer going to go through the block, might have not chosen to get up out of its rest or whatever, to like, because it's, if you hear a person pass a car driving by or something slowly. So in the sense where here's the person going slowly, it's like, oh, I'm gonna get up out of the way because that might be like this person's, this person might be coming right down this path that I'm on the side of this at this yard, or they might be going down this yard or whatever. And so then it's like, oh, I'm just gonna mosey up the block. And I'm like, I'm like way ahead of this person. I have super hearing. Person has regular hearing. I'm like, just gonna be like, up out of his way before, so he won't even realize I'm here or whatever. And then it's like, so it's like, trying to figure out pacing itself, how long it's gonna need to, when it's gonna get to turn back, and before it knows it, it's at the end of the street, and then it's prancing into the road or pranced in the road, and it's like, oh, whoop, reconsider. Okay, so maybe the person sounds like a arriving sound. It's nothing. Cat's like, oh, okay, luck of the draw. Oh, interesting. They may be whatever, just that. Any explanations for that sort of thing amongst the interestingness of the type of things that people do, from the cat's point of view, that must just be an open-ended sort of thing. It's like, oh, just another like random person thing. But from the point of view of me trying to make a hypothesis, it potentially could notice, assuming that the cat could make a discernation between a passer through and a arriving at a destination type of person, which I'm thinking that it could do. I mean, like cats kind of, they're like, trackers. They kind of like, have a sense of things. It would more or less I'm almost assuming it would necessarily, and it would, possibly, take the action of, moseying down the block ahead of time in case that the person was going to be going into the place where they actually were. Because cats, I don't think they like, settle at one specific spot. I think they come to like the, you know, particulars. And plus there's so much random particular visiting of people and friends and coming here, going there in the night and all this sort of thing. Possible that there's no reason to believe that, there's not a reason to believe that it would, perchance take particularly to, or anything like knowing that they're, but I know that they're definitely not coming to this house, or I know that they are coming to this house, more or less. It seems like that would be outside of the plausible detail of the whole kind of like sensory, like, assumption sort of cat instinct thing, that I'm, postulating upon here. And so assuming that it, hears that sort of sound of a person arriving at a place, but then that person doesn't actually arrive at the place and is, oh, look, I'm in the street now. And wherever they're going, then go back to my sleep, and I'm setting the road, and I might just, take on and do something else with the night or whatever. So I'm already like, or whatever. And the person approaching that and seeing that, may, the superstition may have gathered around the fact that approaching in the block is, some sort of person who's sounding like they're arriving at their destination but isn't, which, indicate or like be, illudatory of and that is to, it could allude to and or be like the allusion of whatever it is that is, the cat's sort of like understanding of everything, and it's under, you know undertaking of the scope of, or undertaking of the job of figuring out whatever detail may be applicable to its circumstances. To a person's situation necessarily could be like, in this case, derivable to be, the cat in the road means there's a person creeping up the block creepily. And in the sense of like, the time and place when I think of superstitions having come from, I think of, old, scary, creepy times in which, like, it was like, there would be like, you would probably go far out of your way to not be creeping up the sidewalk just so that you weren't mistakenly, thought of as like, a bread thief or something, and then, undergo some sort of, like unforeseeable and undesirable sort of like, unsavory outcome of some sort. And to the essence of where you happen to just have to be whatever outdoors or whatever, you'd probably be on your way going wherever you're trying to go as fast as possible to seem plausibly like and or more or less the most, you know, purpose driven and what have you. And were there like, little other sort of like recourse, you may be, going in that sort of way that seemed like, you were avoiding it out, just slowly going about your way or whatever. And in essence, it seems like the third category may or may less be uh, kind of presumably, potentially, in the olden days when superstitions were like created, essentially, um, you know, someone who may present some sort of, if not danger, some sort of fear or some sort of, vexation or what's the other word? Sort of cause of sort of you know rest in some sort of way that then causes you to be thinking of, oh man, like, there was that black cat, and then there was that, like, person in the coat, and then like an hour and a half later, like, I like tripped and like, banged my arm on the like you know wrought iron fence or something like that, and it was like, and I almost fell over the fence, and it was right on a precipice or something. Whatever the like colludatory thing, the whole chance that the cat may have been, um, you know, in that sort of peculiarity of situation, um, is somewhat plausible, at least more plausible, I think, than necessarily any other reasoning that I can think of for why a cat would be, it's like, um, and seeing the behavior of cats isn't really necessarily readily available. But earlier tonight, I saw one kind of basically like, kind of like, cantering or not cantering, let's say, moseying or like kind of like, prancily, um, just kind of like, not like walking, but like, of whatever the one of the gates of a cat, whatever the gates are, like one of the slower ones up the block, and kind of turning its head to its like towards back towards like was it wasn't at all like, it just like it was like kind of like slow or whatever, and kind of was out in the open a little bit, and it didn't stop like, corrected. It's like, like a couple like curved like right to the left and then left to the right a little bit, so like kind of was like back on a straight pace and looking kind of forwardish, and then I'm trying to remember, kind of like something along those lines. It like or it like no, it noticed, that it was out in the open, or that there or something, and then like I don't know, remember something like that, but or I don't remember, but it was something more or less that the main sort of thing that I noticed was that from out of gravity, like towards like, and so the fence didn't just go to 90-degree angle. It was like, a more acute angle. So it was more easy to see that it like, didn't go straight at 90 degrees. It kind of came around at a curve, but more or less it wasn't necessarily looking like it was knowing that it was going to be doing that. I think it may have been part of its thing that it was like, going listening to the whatever approacher person or something, and be an approacher person. So the cat might have just been listening to something way in the distance, or just not listening to anything at all. But it kind of was a and it had the sort of it seemed as if it may have been. So it very well may have been. I mean, I don't know. Like, cats have hearing, and they are like skittish about things. So plausibility to me seems viable. But it definitely like didn't like stop in the road or anything like that. Like as in the superstition, but you know, it also seemed like it. Well, it also definitely was like not a full size cat. It was a kitten, and it also is like, you know, not determinable as to, particularly what shade of color it was, other than that I don't think it was black, as in gloss black or jet black, sort of like it just seemed a little bit, it seemed mostly darkish, more or less. And and it definitely isn't like, um, an auspicy one way or another. Except it is a good auspicy. I am a fan of seeing animals in the night. They're cool. They are interesting and stuff. There's cool ones that you see during the night that you don't often see during the day. Pretty much like more or less all of them, except for I guess like like ones that are part of a zoo that is open during the day. More or less, yeah. It's like I don't know where animals go or what they do during the day. I guess they like kind of like find a little like niche or whatever, and they like stow away until it's like more um, than during the day, like habitable, I guess, for them. Um, but that's I guess the general assumption. I'm not so sure what all the details are per species and stuff, but anyways, so the hypothesis for the superstition reasoning of the cat could be potentially it, the cat being bad luck if you see it in the road, be approaching their place or something, but who isn't, and who like miss, kind of like, kind of like kind of like, I guess like, uh, conveyance of that in its own sort of purpose. The cat perpetuating its own conveyance of like, all right, well, I've got wrestled out of my place. I'm gonna like, go just as far as I need to until I find out if or if not this person, or just until I just gonna go far enough until I find out that this person has reached their destination, and then gonna go back to where I was sleeping, and then they find themselves at the end of the block, and then they're out in the middle of the street, and they're going, oh, whoops, wait, what was I doing? I was just like, whatever, and the person that I like wrestled myself out of that with my super hearing and kind of like got to make sure that I was you're not going to be right where they were going to go. Apparently is not approach, and that sort of situation may be frightening to or potentially dangerous to sort of whatever of their like approach towards the block, which isn't apparently where the cat assumed the person may at least or may at least frighten the person in some sort of way, or something like that. Just coming across someone at night who isn't like on like a determination, purpose-filled course of some sort, may be frightening or something along those lines, and or what have you, or it may just be noticeably like the reasoning necessarily just cause a sort of vexation or a like a bad later. They think right back to the, oh, there was a cat in the road, that's so strange, and it may not be that strange considering that not everyone who's walking up the block is going to be doing so at a super attended pace. There may be moseying up the block. The cat may think it's the middle of the night and it might be like 8 p.m. or something like that. um, who knows? There's 10 other different scenarios. The cat, I like that one though. The cat may think it was the middle of the night, but it, might be either 8 p.m. and someone might just be like, casually moseying down the block and not like, on the sort of, and the cat may be thinking, oh, there's no one else around. This person must be approaching their house and it must be late at night. They could have been napping in the afternoon or something like that. Anyways, that's generally the gist of my hypothesis for if there's reason behind the superstition of that it's bad luck to see a black cat crossing the road. Um, Reasons why you wouldn't see a white cat crossing the road necessarily are because I think that they must have a different sort of psyche or timetable, or like less of a proclivity to be out at all at night, and in some sort of way probably like it just seems plausible just because of how much more easily they are like probably visually sighted. And generally speaking, I think that white cats are more of a like straight on domestic like and indoor kept thing. I could be wrong. It may be whatever you make of it, but I happen to know that for me and for most people I know, black cats are actually good luck. And yeah, so anyways, enjoy your rest of the viewing of the live footage. Have a good night or morning or day. My name's Kyle Varela, and I am of a few email addresses. They are Kyle2Varela at glutenfreeguitarlessons at gmail.com. Kyle2Varela201 at outlook.com. And yeah, that's mainly them. Those are my main email. Those are my only email addresses, except and potentially like other peripheral. Those are my like account email addresses. Have a nice evening, morning, day. Have a nice evening.